Make $2,000. I'd work like a month to make $2,000, and I just made it tonight. And I thought, that's a lot of burritos at 3 for $1. And then you start to think, well, if I work harder, if I work smarter, and if I invest correctly, think about what I can do next month. And it's fun. It's very motivating. And as I said, that's one of the reasons why I want to be a CFP, is to be recognized as a professional, and I love contests. But it wasn't until a summer evening that I was driving out of Weston Canyon. One thing you'll learn about me, I love to fish. So I was fishing up at Weston Reservoir in my float tube. I didn't have cell service, and I was coming out of the canyon. I got a voicemail that popped up on my phone. And I listened to it, and it was a gentleman that was the father of one of my clients. And he said, Brady, this is Mr. Johnson. I'm Chauncey Johnson's father. There's been a terrible accident. And Kelly, Chauncey's wife, is in intensive care, and we've lost their daughter. And my heart just sank, because the first thing that I thought is, I sure hope that insurance is in place. So I immediately jumped online, checked it out. It was in place. And I called Mr. Johnson, and I talked to him, and apparently there had been an accident that Kelly had been extremely hurt, and that they lost her daughter. All of that planning that we had done for the Johnsons was now making it so that Chauncey could stay there in the hospital with his wife, and that they could pay for a funeral to bury their little daughter, and that he didn't have to worry about the medical bills that were piling up because of that insurance that was taking place. And now all of a sudden it wasn't about me looking foolish to my dad. It wasn't about me making a good income or even being seen as a professional. Now it was about them. It was about helping them. And the reality is, in this career, if you can get to that point where you truly have a spirit of service to your clientele, that's when miracles start to take place. Things that never could have happened before take place. I'll share with you a personal example on how this rang true. When I lived here in Logan, I played for the Smithville Blue Sox. Anybody know who the Smithville Blue Sox are? Yeah, represent. Although they're bad now. We were good. I played for the Blue Sox because I love to compete, and it was a great way to stay in shape. But then in '08, I moved to Boise, and they didn't have baseball up there like we had here in Cache Valley. And so I had to find something else to be able to do. And there were some guys in my neighborhood that did triathlons. And I'm like, triathlons? So that's, you swim, and then you bike, and then you run. And they're like, yep. And I go, and that's fun? They go, it's a blast. And I'm thinking back to my high school days in Preston. We'd be out there on the practice field. We'd be playing football, football practice. We'd be hitting each other and just having a great time. And we'd see those cross-country people running. And I'm like, why? And then the coach would get mad at us, and he'd make us run. I'm like, why do they do that for fun? That makes no sense. But then here I am thinking, oh, I got to do a triathlon. So the first triathlon that I signed up for was an Olympic distance. And that's a 0.9-mile swim and a 26-mile bike, and then you run 6 miles. And I'd never run 6 miles in my life. So I started training. Well, guess what my motivation was? Number one, I didn't want to not complete the race. I was fearful of failing. And in fact, in the run, at like mile 3, when I was dying, I was dying. Like, I wish that I had a camera, because they could have made a YouTube video of like, this is why you don't do triathlon. Look at this guy. And that was the reason why I finished that, is one, was I didn't want to fail. The reality is the prize money was already gone. I wasn't in first place, so that doesn't apply. This was a big one. I wanted to compete with my friends, right? That was a huge motivator. And that helped me to finish the race. Well, after the race, I'm like, that was kind of cool, right? And these guys are saying, you know what? I think that we could be an Ironman. We could do an Ironman. I'm like, it's an Ironman. It doesn't sound very cool, right? And they go, that's the thing you see on TV. And I go, I've think I have seen that, but I don't think they let guys like us do that. They go, no, you can. And I go, what is it? And they go, it's a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, and then you run a marathon. I'm like, I start thinking about it. And I'm all, that would be cool. And I see guys, right, that have like their t-shirt that's a finisher Ironman t-shirt, that they got like a big medal, right? They wear it around. No, they don't. But I'm like, I want one of these t-shirts. Then I see them, they got the decal in the back of their truck that has the M.dot symbol that shows that they're an Ironman. I'm like, yeah, I want to be an Ironman. And I'll get like the hat that has the Ironman thing, and that's why I want to do it, right? So think about where my motivations were. So we say, here's the first thing we got to do. We got to do a half Ironman, which is all that distance divided by 2. So we signed up for the Boise Half Ironman, which was the next summer, and I did it. And I'm telling you, if you think the Olympic distance was a disaster, it was like, call the medics. This guy might die when I was on that run. It was embarrassing how bad it was. And the interesting thing with Ironman is you have all different ages that are there competing with you. And so I had like 70-year-old ladies that were just blowing by me on the run. Like, the walk of shame has begun, okay? It was just bad. And when I got to the end, my knees, I seriously thought I broke my knees. My wife's like, what do you mean you broke your knees? I broke my knees. I need new knees. It was horrible. And the thought crossed my mind, to be an Ironman, I have to do exactly what I just did again. I've got to double it. I'm like, there's no way. I'm out. And I tap out. I'm like, you guys are nuts. And those guys did the same thing, ironically. They were like, that Ironman thing, that was stupid. Okay? Well, let me throw another angle to this story. In 2007, when we lived here in Logan, we had one child, and that was Brindley, my daughter. She was like 2. Well, we were expecting our second child, and from the miracle of ultrasound, we found out that it was a son. It was my firstborn son. Such a special experience to be able to know that we're going to have this son. So, as you guys are getting to know me, right, I'm like envisioning like, this guy's going to be a baseball player, and this guy's going to be a fisherman, and he's going to be my buddy, and he's going to get married and have awesome kids, and he's going to be the CEO and the President of the United States, right? All these visions of what you have for your son. Well, the day of the judgment day, the big day comes. It actually happened in the middle of the night. We had just moved into a new house, and that's why my wife said, actually why she went into labor, it was all my fault. I made her move into a new house when she was 9 months pregnant. And she wakes me up at 2:30 in the morning with those famous words saying, I think it's time, right? I think it's time. And I'm like, game on, let's do it. So I jump up, I'm all, Superman mode. And she goes, I think I've got a little bit, like, go get the bags, maybe take a shower, it's gonna be a long day. I'm done. So I come out of the shower, she's on the bed, and she is just dying in pain, like just dying. I'm like, what's wrong? And she looks at me like, I'm having a baby, you idiot. And she says those words that you don't want to hear, which are, I think we waited too long to go to the hospital. I'm like, that's a problem. I run into the garage, I grab my Leatherman and my headlamp, and I get ready to deliver this kid, right? And I go back in there, she's like, it was just this contraction, I think we're okay, we made it to the hospital. So we're there, I'm all fired up, delivery goes great, we got our little boy there, and he's perfect. He's everything that I had wanted. And I'm taking pictures, and it's just a special day for Dad. But I noticed something, that the doctors and the nurses were just really quiet. They're just really quiet. And that kind of caused concern. And about 10 minutes after Nash was born, the doctor came and put his arm around me and said, Brady, we think your son has Down syndrome. That was the first I'd heard of that. And I didn't know what that meant, right? I didn't know if that was like, I didn't know. And all those dreams and visions and ideas that I had for my son, it just didn't seem real. And my whole world had just changed. And here I was with my son, and I gotta go tell my wife. And I don't know how she's going to react because she doesn't know. And so I walk over and I lean down and I whisper in her ear, and I told her that they believe that Nash has Down syndrome. And she didn't skip a beat. It didn't matter. It was irrelevant because she had her son. And he was perfect. And that brought so much peace and comfort that everything was going to be okay. When we fast forward now, and I've got 4 kids total, 3 other kids. I don't even care about those kids. I just kind of like hanging out with Nash. Those other guys, they'll do whatever they want, right? It's just me and Nash. I'm just kidding, they're good. But Nash is my guy. He's my inspiration. He's everything to me. Well, I share that with you because I'm going to relate it back to this. A few years after Nash was born in 2011, my wife and I were actually sitting. In fact, let me pull this up on the internet here. We were sitting at home one night, and I don't know how we got turned on to this website, but we were really active with the Down syndrome community, and we got referred to this website to where they said there's a lot of kids on here that have Down syndrome that are orphans. I'm like, what do you mean? And they go, you just got to go check it out. And this is what I saw. I'm going to have to log in real quick. Nobody look at my password. No, you're good. I'll be fast. That's mine. Let's go look at Adam's email address.
He wants to keep his a secret.
I type so fast that nobody is going to be able to see it. Watch this. Anybody who gets my password, I'm buying dinner. Ready? Done. Anybody? All right, let's go down here. Now we got to turn it up on the big one. Oh, no wonder you guys couldn't see it. It's like 100 degrees in here. We better open the window. Have Sterling start to. Oh yeah, that's hard. It's bad over here. All right. So we jumped on this website. Keep in mind, parents of a child who has Down syndrome. And we were seeing pictures like this. Like that. That. We're seeing this. And these kids were the same age as Nash. And I'm like, what is going on? And I started to read about it. And I found out that in many cultures, when a child is born with a disability, they're immediately placed into an orphanage. And that's where they stay for 3 to 5 years before they're then transferred over to an adult mental institution. And then in many cases, these children pass away prior to even making it to an adult because of the harsh living circumstances. And as you can see here, you can see how malnutrition these kids are. And I saw this, and I'm like, we've got to do something about this. So we started researching more. We found out that these kids actually were getting adopted. In fact, there were lots of families that wanted to be able to adopt them. The only thing that they were missing is they didn't have the funding to be able to pay for an international adoption. On average, these adoptions cost $30,000 to $40,000. For many families, that's just too much. And I thought, you know what? We could do something about that, because if money's the only thing standing in the way of these kids getting adopted, we can find a way to do that, to fix that. And so we made a goal. And we went, and I'll show you, the little child that we chose. And so if we go back, my wife and I said, let's choose a child, and let's go raise $20,000 for this kid. How we're going to do it, I don't know. But we're going to try and find a way. We chose Eli. He was in an orphanage in Lithuania. At the time, he was 4 years old. He'd been listed for adoption during that entire time. No families had inquired to adopt Eli. We started small. We got like 20 bucks from grandma, 100 bucks from dad. We did a little fundraiser that we got a couple hundred. And we thought, how in the world are we going to be able to raise $20,000? But as I said, when you get caught up in a cause, miracles take place. When it's not about you, and it's about helping somebody else, miracles take place, and you are able to do things that you
never would have been able to do